Welcome to Don't Fear the Weight podcast with your host Vicky Masita, bringing together science and personal experience.
Hi guys, welcome back to the next episode of Don't Fear the Weight with your tiny titan host Vicky Masita, ever so tiny as per usual, not growing yet. I'm trying my best, but you know, it's hard going, But anyway, in the hot seat tonight, we have Robert Waterhouse, also known as Bob Waterhouse by his many friends and admirers. So good evening, Bob. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Yourself?
Not so bad at all. We had some little technical difficulties with the sunshine earlier on, didn't we?
We did indeed, yeah.
But it's all right. So, on this particular episode of Don't Fear the Weight with Bob, obviously now Bob isn't a massively well-known name in the IFBB pro leagues or anything like that, and you know, or even the scientific community, like some of the other guests that I've had on today on this podcast. However, the reason why I brought Bob on is because he has a certain skill level, which I'm going to delve into later on in this podcast. But first of all, Bob, do you want to tell us a little bit more about you and your background, and as to the reason why people obviously know you in the natural scene so much more?
Sure. So, I mean, I guess I started bodybuilding. Well, I joined the gym when I was 14, but I didn't actually start bodybuilding until I was 22, which was I think it was the second year that it actually put increased the junior age at the time. So around that time, I mean, I was the last year of juniors. So most of the competitors against me as well, apart from the odd one or two, were all kind of the younger age groups, so 20, 21 kind of thing. So obviously a bit of advantage that way. But yeah, so basically, I guess I've been competing 10 years now with the BMBF as well. And obviously now DFAC, obviously as a professional. So I won my pro card in 2013, and I guess I've had a pretty good stint so far in the pro ranks as well. So it's from there, really.
Definitely. And one of the really big things that I admire you quite a lot for is the fact that you go into non-tested federations as well, don't you, in the classic division?
Yeah.
And you place really well.
Yeah, I've had a good run for sure. And I don't understand what, I guess I don't really know why other people don't, to be honest with you, because I really do think that any top level natural would always do very, very well in untested federations, because if you're well balanced, especially for a natural, then you know that's what you do often have over some of the assisted guys, maybe where they just don't grow in proportion. Maybe, obviously, the odd few people who are obviously very good, it's very hard to compete with them at that level. But depending on like the shows that you do, I mean, I started off. I think one of the first untested shows I did was the Yorkshire Classic, which a friend of mine, Jason Matthews, puts on every year, and Paul Jeffrey. So I sort of went into that as one of my first ones, and I did do a classic in the UK BFF in my pro card year as well, which was 2013. I did win that as well. So yeah, so I've actually had a pretty good run with those for sure. So I don't see why more people don't do it, to be honest. I think it's the more of the fear of doing it rather than anything else, but they probably would do pretty well as well. So
I think you're exactly right in that one as well. I think it is the fear, isn't it? Because sometimes you think to yourself, okay, well, I'll do the natural shows because I'm on a level playing field. But actually going up against some of these assisted guys, I mean, I can speak for it myself. Now, I can get shredded. You've seen how lean I can get on stage. But putting myself up against like the athletic figure girls, for example, because they don't just have... Our athletic in the BMBF is very, very different to athletic figure in other federations. And those girls, compared to me, are just monstrous. Yeah, they're not lean. They're not as lean as I can get, but they are huge. Yeah, so I suppose coming from my perspective as well and agreeing with you totally, I think it is just a big fearful thing that you're not on a level playing field. So it's just kind of like stay in your ranks a little bit. Yeah. I mean, I don't know, but
you think... I would say for women that it's probably a harder task because, I mean, people who do know, I guess, a little bit more of a background against anabolics, about anabolics, should I say, is that, probably women respond better than what guys do, just because obviously they don't produce testosterone. So, yeah, you do find that the level of hardness that a lot of the girls can get, obviously, and size, Whereas most guys, as I said, I would tend to find, you know, a good level natural is probably going to be as good as someone who is assisted, but maybe genetically sort of inferior, if you like. So you can put it on in that bracket as well, for sure. So.
Yeah, definitely. So sticking with the female theme, obviously what we were just talking about there and the whole fear thing and being huge and everything, you have recently prepped, well, it was last year, wasn't it? An amazing athlete by the name of Zoe. And she won her pro card in the physique division, didn't she?
She did indeed, yeah.
Which is absolutely epic. So big shout out to Zoe on there. Now, the reason why I brought you on is because you have this certain level of skill of getting people extraordinarily lean, but still maintaining a hell of a lot of muscle mass. Now, that's a hard feat for a woman to do. And how Zoe came in, she was peeled and hard, but still had full round muscle bellies. So I wanted to get your side of things when you prep women, basically, but not necessarily so for bikini or for figure, but actually predominantly bodybuilding and physique.
Yeah,
so
sure.
Would you treat them any differently than a man, or would you actually take the same kind of approach?
I think it does depend on where their kind of starting point is. I mean, we obviously all know when you do look at a lot of women, they do massively undereat.
Oh yeah, completely.
Well, one, I guess the calorie requirement is usually less. But with regards to maybe physique athletes, setting aside, as you said, your bikini and that kind of divisions, the starting point, as I said, like the biggest thing for Zoe is that, I mean, she was massively undereating. She wasn't really technically in things as far as that I would kind of put into a bracket of, I guess it was a little bit more flexible in the kind of foods that she was eating. So we did grow her up a little bit, if you like. So we did add a few things that I just thought that would be more suitable, like with the workload and everything that she was doing. I guess the biggest difference that I was kind of approached to with a woman to a guy is the starting point that you actually put them at. You do tend to find that if you can get a woman past maybe the first 2 weeks of like feeding her, they usually will be all right. But it's that initial, like if let's say I took Zoe, for example, I think she was around about 220 grams of carbs a day, and we put her up to about 340 straight off the bat. And it was that first initial of, oh my God, this is so much food. You know, how do people do this? I don't think, you know, I'm carb tolerant, whatever it might be. So that all the kind of the bloatedness and the, you know, not feeling hungry, I guess, is the biggest obstacle to overcome with a woman. Because, I mean, guys are the same to a certain point, but they're kind of, I guess, happy about the fact that they've got more food in the diet. Whereas with a woman, you will find that whole bloatedness and feeling lethargic is a really big obstacle to overcome. So you do have to, if you like, kind of almost reverse them into where you would usually start a guy and where I would usually start a girl. That would be kind of the main difference, if I'm honest. So.
Okay. And you always like to work with these females for a little while in their off season first before taking them on as a prep?
Yeah, well, it was actually, that's usually ideal, because you can then pound the food in a little bit in the off season. And, you know, if they put on a bit of body fat, then, you know, it's okay, because, you know, you can obviously do other things to bring them down. So the more obviously that you can build that base in the off season, the better chances, you know, I guess we all know that they stand to lose body fat, because, you know, they're starting at obviously a higher, you know, caloric intake and obviously a higher base of carbohydrates as well. So I guess that would be the main thing for sure.
Okay. So that's from a starting point of view then. Okay. So when did you know that it was that point where Zoe was having enough food and she had gained enough weight? Did you just keep on pushing food and food and food? Or did you kind of look at her at some point and say, you're getting a little bit too much of a chub going on? Or did you really not mind the additional chub that anybody...
So it's different with Zoe. Like, I mean, I looked at her physique. She came down to see me at a gym in Cambridge where I was working, as like I promote health clubs all over the UK as part of the job that I do.
Okay.
And she was working, or based where she was at camp, about an hour away. And I said to her, well, like, you know, come down and see me. She'd been to some of the posing clubs and everything around down south, I think it was. And she kind of just, I would say she was spinning her wheels because she wasn't, because she's good anyway. She was one of them girls who, she was obviously, it was taking her from being good to great, and that was the main difference really. So she was probably under eating, but she had this kind of like tired look to her physique where she just almost looked like she flat and kind of like semi-hard. So it was kind of it was that straight away click, like if you just fed this girl with the amount of workload that she's doing, she would just, she would just usually, like some of the other guys, just get tighter and harder. So that was kind of my thoughts initially. So I had a look at her and had a look at her diet and went for a little bit of posing and everything with her. And she actually did up to the first qualifier by herself. So she kind of, took some pointers from what I'd been telling her. And then she did pretty well at a qualifier. I'm not sure if she won a qualifier, if she came second. I can't remember. I think she may have won. But she'd been taking on bits and pieces, and I think the problem was that she was picking maybe a few little snippets from a few different people. So I did say to her, you're good, but you could get so much better for the finals within kind of 10, 12 weeks left that she had a diet in. So she said, okay, well if you just take over my prep, I'd be more than happy to. So that's what we did basically, and from that point on, that's when we really did. Really push the calories into her. And she was one of these people who just really did respond to it very, very well. So I think I'll pull the protein down probably about 50, 60 grams and put her carbs up about 100 grams. So the calorie actual difference wasn't huge. It was just the ratio of which she was putting her foods at, to be honest. So.
Right. Okay. Because there is this big thing actually now about having more protein in your diet, even in the off season, isn't there? By saying the more protein that you eat, the more muscle tissue that you're actually going to be building. But it is that fine line, because I don't know about you, but if it's the same for many of your female clients, but if I have too much protein, I tend to get terrible side effects from it, from bloatedness, constipation, really big lethargy. But then the minute I kind of titrate it back down again to a more manageable level, all of that clears up.
Sure. I mean, I actually would say that the difference between, I usually set my male clients, obviously, especially if they're naturals, as like a 1 gram per lean pound.
Yeah.
Females, I go from 1.2 to 1.3 usually. It's just kind of a base. It's just obviously women tend to need more protein than guys because of hormones and that kind of side of things. So, a lot of people will just think that, that they just need to, guys would need more than girls, but effectively it's not actually the case. So.
Interesting. Okay. Now, one thing I was interested when you said it, you gave the little quotation marks before saying that she was quite flexible with her diet, so you broed her up a bit.
Yeah.
Now, what was your idea in broing her up? Was it the whole steak and rice type thing, or was it the other end of things?
It was more of like her food choices. So she was eating, as far as I can remember, she had some things like a couple of meals of just like salads and like apples and just really kind of like random stuff in there, which I just thought like there's a much better use of your calories. So she was still having a sort of, if you look at it all as, as an overall, the actual, if you was to put that into a sort of MyFitnessPal, the actual ratios didn't look too bad. I just think that her performance in the gym would be improved by changing those ratios around. So actually picking her carbs up, pulling her protein down. Obviously, the thing that people forget really is that when we look at, I guess, maybe an optimal approach from my perspective, it's trying to get the athlete as full and as round as possible, but as lean as possible. So I know from myself, the type of foods that I eat does affect the way I look. And people can go, well, it's just a simple case of calories in, calories out. But it would mainly be like my performance in the gym that would have a massive effect. And just little things like, let's say you have toast for your breakfast rather than oats. I know that my leg session, if I did that on a Saturday, would usually be better if I'd had something like that. So it's just kind of like, choosing foods that are going to be the most beneficial to your training and obviously overall look. So that was really my thoughts looking at a diet. It was just it wasn't anything that was kind of like, oh my goodness, like you shouldn't be eating this. It was just, as I said, it was just almost like, it was just like really random things that I wouldn't really put in a bodybuilding diet. I can't remember what I think there was some cheese in there, and I think there was like, you know, some salads and stuff like that, as I said. So the overall calories wasn't the problem. It was more just a thought that, you know, she would benefit from doing it, especially like fullness wise.
Definitely, definitely. But cheese salad together, that's not right.
I
Cheese
don't know
on
if they
its
were
own?
actually in the same meal or whatever it was, but it was just. I mean, I'm always a go-to of using like Udo's oil. I just think I've got a really good, you know, blend of fats. So like picking cheese and Udo's oil, for me, they may be the same calories in the same amounts, but the actual blend of what you're getting, obviously, as far as your feedback from that food, for me was kind of a no-brainer. So that was really what it was, to be honest. Yeah.
Indeed, yeah. I'm a big advocate of that. Eat to perform and then fuel your performance. So yeah, I mean, again, the whole if it fits your macros approach, it was big a couple of years ago, and it was just like you can have whatever you want and still get it shredded. And yeah, absolutely, it's calories in versus calories out. But I found a lot of people who did do the flexible dieting approach, especially in the off season, they had this kind of overlayer of watery film around them.
Definitely.
So they didn't have this, even if you can get a bit podgy in the off season, because let's face it, you're going to be putting on some lean tissue, you're going to gain weight, fat gain is inevitable, but you don't have this watery film look with
Definitely.
the
biggest thing that comes into effect is like peak, because if your food's been super consistent and super bro, if you like, you're able to monitor whether to push or to pull, as far as with calories or with like carbs. So like for her, I mean, she was pretty much eating white potatoes, sweet potatoes, oats as her main carb sources, and then obviously chicken, fish, and beef, I think, as a 3 protein sources, apart from shakes as well. But I just feel like you're able to put not a cap on it, but you're able to have probably it's easier to control, would be really my sort of, you know, if someone's having a lot of foods that maybe a lot higher in sodium or maybe a lot less in sodium, you're just able to regulate all the factors. And I just think that was kind of one of the biggest things, is that, you know, if you're trying to peak someone for that, you know, show day, it's easier to go, okay, right, well, we did a super high down on the Thursday and she's holding a little bit of water from that, just pull things back again and she'd tighten up. So you're able just to kind of, you know, control the variables a bit better, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely. Totally agree as well. Yeah, that's cool. Now, talking about sodium and that kind of thing, I did have a very interesting podcast the other day, which I can't divulge at the moment. It's still classified. No, I'm joking. But it was all about dehydration and sodium. Yeah. So do you use any of those particular tricks on women in general well, no, I will just say just your physique athletes, because you don't need to piss around with water loading and that with bikini and other rounds anyway, do you?
I can pretty much put it as a blanket statement that every time I've played with water with clients, it's never worked out the way that I wanted it to. Simple as that. And that includes myself. I mean, even this last year, obviously very good friends with Daz Cooper, and, you know, he uses sort of a lot of the old school tricks with, you know, pulling water for a show. And each one of those qualifiers that I did, or shows, assisted shows, I basically did the old kind of like, you know, we'll sodium load, we'll dehydrate, we'll water load, we'll try a bit of alcohol the night before the show. And every single time, whether the fact that I was getting leaner as well, but the times that I kept water in and didn't really play about, I just kept it relative to carbohydrates. And I think that's really the main thing I would say. It obviously it turned a better result. I mean, I always look really good in the gym sort of a week before going in, and then you change all these variables, and just the fullness that you're sort of losing and the pump backstage can actually change your physique. So I would say, I mean, for example, with the protocol was that we kept it, I think around, it was either 5 or 10 mil per gram of carb to water, basically. So obviously, if she was having 300 grams of carbs a day, she needed to drink, 3 liters minimum as a diet, and basically usually no higher than kind of 4 or 5. So especially when doing like a peak. So that was kind of so you can control that factor as well. but yeah, so sorry, I lost where I was now. But yeah, that was the point of it really, is that we kept it relative and we kept water in, and then on show day she basically would have just stayed hydrated in the morning. So that would have been anywhere from sort of 1.5 litres to 2 litres before going on. So that you're getting up at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning for a sort of show day. So that was the you know, just keeping it kind of consistent to kind of your normal day really. So
yeah, see, this is the funny thing. Everybody is looking for the next magic pill to have this amazing peak week. And I don't know about you, but I don't call it peak week. I just call it don't fuck it up week. Because if you've been steadily doing everything right consistently for all of this time and you're looking on point and you're looking sweet, why the hell would you change all of these variables on a hunch that it may work?
Definitely. I mean, I think it does depend on where you're at with your physique, and that's how it would change things with regards to, well, girls and guys really, of that different approach. So I had, I think, was about 7 people in the finals for last year, and every single one of them would have had a slightly different approach, because someone like Zoe, I could have just kept feeding her and feeding her and feeding her, and she probably just would have got better and better.
Yeah.
So having probably more than some of my guy clients, because maybe they just weren't quite hard enough. So I didn't really want to pick up what we'd basically done, if you like. So yeah, it does, I guess, it does depend on the level of condition that you're carrying for sure.
Okay, mint. So, all right. So moving over from the nutritional protocols, let's have a look at your training then. Does your training protocols that you design for your female clients differ from your male clients, first of all? And then does it change from being off season to then going into a comp prep?
I guess as an overall, no, it's not that much different. Only other than the fact that when we're looking at, you would always take it as an individual basis. So my biggest thing looking at working with clients and off season and that kind of thing is what is going to be the optimal training program to do to better your physique. Because for me, I've probably spent, since 2013 training, back and hamstrings two to 3 times a week, because they were my main difficulties. So someone like Zoe, it was predominantly like putting 2 back workouts in, because she's like, her rear double biceps is obviously absolute, world beater. But obviously just there's so much detail going on through the shoulders and arms, whereas she loses it. She's not obviously got enough, lat development. So it was kind of, as I said, trying to focus on those parts. So I guess for anyone, whether it be women or guys, for the women's side of things, I don't think they're necessarily training any different. They were still doing all the kind of, the bread and butters, if you like, and but it was a complete focus on what that person's trying to improve. So rather than just kind of, we'll just tick all the boxes, we'll make you squat, we'll make you deadlift, all that kind of stuff. Like I don't think we even put deadlifts into a program. It was more that I wanted to bring out a lot more road type movements to her workouts, and that was something that became evident when she came to do a session with me. And like, she trains like an animal as well. Like, I kept putting in plates on the leg press, and she kept keeping up with me. And I was thinking, oh dear, I really have to go above and beyond to sort of, make sure I sort of, how should you say, stamp my authority on her, I guess, really. But didn't want to be shown up by Zoe. But yeah, it was one of them. But as I said, we did put a lot of the basics into a program. So, but it's relative to what she needed to work on, really.
Sure. And do you use, obviously you were just talking about increasing the load and, rep these out and put some more on and stuff. Do you use your intensity methods as well, like iso holds and drop sets, myo reps, all of that, Malarkey?
Yeah, bits, I would say. I mean, I always find, and this is, I guess some people may disagree with me, but I do tend to find that a lot of women clients, and a lot of women in general, probably have like a better pain threshold than a lot of guys. I don't know if it's just
completely agree.
The way that they put together, but I mean, someone like her, she really is kind of like that. I'm not sure if she's got a particularly good like lactic acid system as far as she could do 20 reps on something and she'd still look like she'd mainly breaking a sweat, and I was there blowing up my ass type of thing. So yeah, maybe she is just one of those sort of very hard working person anyway. But you know, it is quite apparent with, you know, a lot of people that I see training, especially girls, that have got that kind of, you know, pain threshold is very, very good. So
sometimes it is just a test of pain tolerance sometimes, isn't it? You know, when I first take a new client on and they come and have a training session with me in the gym, I normally go on and do something like an 8 sets of 8 on a leg press. You know, when you pick a weight that you can do 12 reps with, and then you just do 8 sets of 8 with a 10-second rest in between each set. Now, the first 2 sets are fine, but when it comes to that third one, it's like, holy shit.
Oh, yeah.
I've still got, you know, 5 more of these buggers to do, but it is just a test of pain tolerance. And I have found, interestingly, that my female clients can do that set a lot better than my male clients. My male clients, their mindset will go before their legs will, because it's just this kind of giving up persona that they've got. But us women, we've got some endurance in our legs, so we can really go for it. So what about things like changing the training up in when you're coming into, you know, your lower body fat levels? Do you take are you one of these coaches that takes out the heavy lifts as well? Obviously, you were saying that you do sometimes program deadlifts and squats depending on the athlete, but would you take those out when they get a little bit lower in body fat?
I think it's really important that, especially for females, that they do have what I always kind of use more of a HIIT training style with all my clients, even myself. So if it was at least finding like you can at least achieve one heavy working set on each exercise. So I wouldn't say the rest are like, they're kind of active warm-up sets is kind of how I look at them. And then you've got maybe 1 to 2 really hard working sets. Maybe on the first compound exercise, something like squats, that you maybe do 2 really hard working sets. So that's the way that we kind of planned the training, was to basically keep, you know, I said there was 2 back days, so there was going to be one which was, if there was the odd, you know, deads and things like that in there, or bent over rows is like your main staple. The other day maybe like more like chins and rows and like machine rows, like where we train at Gym Unity. It's kind of a, you know, a playground for that kind of stuff. So when people will come down and have the like the posing meetups and things like that, we were able to go through a lot of that stuff with each other as well. So so that was really the biggest staple, I guess, really was kind of, you know, just implementing those at least one heavy set to each of the exercises, and then maybe 5 exercises for that body part, basically.
Right. Okay. Cool. So then the last little bit and the last little piece that everybody dreads doing, but you know, it's the reason why this podcast keeps on going. Cardio. Did you feel that you had to, or I mean, I suppose we're using Zoe as a bit of a case study, really, so we might as well keep on the same theme. Did you feel like you had to put a lot of cardio in for Zoe in order to get rid of those last dregs of body fat?
No, I don't think she had to do hardly any at all. She obviously had a very active job. Obviously, she's based in the military, as far as or the army even. But basically, she was, as far as I'm aware, she was doing like running as far as part of the normal exercise that they have to do at work. But as a general rule of thumb, we were just getting to walk, and that was really minimal for her, because I said she was just coming in so quickly. We actually pulled back off cardio into her prep. So as things are going along, usually people will just keep pushing and pushing and pushing, but could see that what the food was having an effect on her physique, and I didn't really want to lose that by just stuck in her legs, because her legs aren't the, you know, they're probably one of the weaker parts of her body. But obviously, because they're peeled, they obviously look really, really good. But it was a case of making sure that she just didn't like, you know, doing so much cardio, just eating away at your legs. And it is obviously very relative to the person's workload in a day anyway. So that was really my thought with her. It was kind of like, you know, light walking. There was no kind of, apart from probably the normal running she was doing here and there. I was trying to, you know, stay off of that as much as possible and try and feed her as much as possible. So I know we did get to a point where, you know, she was like, I'm not sure if I can handle any more food, type of thing. So it was probably on 400 plus carbs by, you know, towards the end. So, which was obviously a very good amount for, you know, compared to what I guess most guy clients you know, we probably get them in shape early and then try and build back up. But some people, you just can't do that if they're coming from a really, really high body fat. You can't feed it the show. And it was just, for her, she was just, you know, very lucky that she got lean, and we were just able to just, you know, creep her food up all the way through, you know, her diet. So.
Yeah, and it's always nice having more potatoes, because potatoes are life. Yeah. Potatoes with cheese on them, though, that's a given. That's a new bro food, that is, potatoes with cheese. Nice one. Anyway, okay, cool. So that was a really nice rounded case study, actually, Bob, and I appreciate you giving us your insight into that. Is there anything that you'd like to leave this particular chat on for female bodybuilders who are looking to actually move up a class?
Sorry, I didn't quite get that bit, sorry.
Is there anything that you can leave the conversation on that you can advise female clients to do? Like, say if they want to move up a class from bikini to figure or athletic, but actually progress their physique.
Yeah. I would say don't be afraid to put some weight on in the off season. I mean, I know a lot of people that they do, and you know, some people I guess are they're always fighting against, you know, just actually putting on weight in the off season. But I think that, you know, that obviously where you make your most progress, especially for females as well. So don't be afraid, you know, to put on a bit, because you can always take it off through diet, and you may have to diet for a little bit longer. And that's usually how I would approach it. We may do, you know, a 10-month prep or so, but it's kind of like just a very strict off season. The first maybe 4 or 5 months of that. I mean, I don't do anyone as kind of like a standard 12 weeks. They would always really, really long diets, but, you know, we would give them a feed at the weekend, or do a whole, you know, either a cheat day or meal, should I say, or a refeed day. And that's how I would kind of approach it. So you may just have to start a diet earlier, but at least when it comes around to actually competing again, you would have made some progress, rather than worrying about, you know, I'm putting on some weight, you know, and I'm going out on a Saturday night and I feel horrendous. It's just kind of, if bodybuilding is the thing that you want to do, then you're going to have to just go through that part, because, you know, you can kind of, I guess, as far as process elimination, you're ticking the boxes because you know that you're going to be in a calorie surplus and have the best chance of putting on muscle. And especially for women, obviously, it's a hard task to achieve, and more so than the guys. So, yeah, don't be afraid to, you know, to eat up.
Definitely. I think that sums it quite nicely. Girls, don't fear the weight. See what I did there? Plugged it nicely. Okay, great. So that is it from us today, guys. Thank you very much for listening again. I hope that has tailed you over your cardio. And if you're as lucky as Zoe, you would have turned this off. Well, how long have we been recording for? So like 37 minutes. So Zoe, you would have turned this off at least 30 minutes ago. So that's lucky for you. Bob, thank you very much again for your time. And guys, if you've got any questions for myself or Bob, I will put all of his links where you can follow him and contact him on all of the socials underneath here on YouTube. And that is it again. Have a lovely sunny weekend and see you next week.
Cheers.